The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do some adjusting on the AFC, which is right here. From this to here is all part of your air fuel control. It's how the V pump adds fuel as the boost comes in. We're going to do a little tweaking on that, and this is where a lot of fun is stored underneath this little cap. So get a big flat blade screwdriver and break all these flat blade screw heads loose, holding on your AFC cap. You can see the four here, and if your truck is a 91.5 through 93 automatic truck with the overdrive trans, which it'll have a big black thing that starts here and goes over to right here, and there'll be 3 Allen heads here, here, and here, or maybe here, here, and here. I forget. I don't have an automatic truck. This truck is a 5-speed, but 3 of them will be Allen heads, and 1 of them should be a flat blade, possibly a Torx. I'm not sure, but either way, take these 4 out, and when you have that done, actually, before you take these 4 out, you should get a 12mm wrench and remove this. This is your banjo bolt, and this is where your boost comes from, out of the manifold, through this little tube. It goes into there, and that's what pushes your fuel pin down, which we'll see very shortly. So remove this, which is called the banjo bolt, and it has a washer here and here on the inside. Washer here and here. Those washers are very small and they're metric, so if you lose them, you're pretty much screwed, and you got to be real careful when you remove this. Okay, so you get your 12mm wrench, you get this bad boy out here, which is called the banjo bolt. It's what the boost actually flows through this little bolt, and you can see the hole. So make sure you get your hand under here, just like mine is, so you can get the washer. Okay, one of the washers stayed on the bolt, and one of them is between the tube and the hose. No, the tube and the injection pump, sorry. And there they are. It's a banjo bolt, washer, and one of the washers is still on the bolt. So put those aside, and with your big screwdriver, I got rid of that yellow thing. I already broke all these loose, and they were not easy, but if you use one of the things that is designed for stuff like this, where you hit the back of it with a hammer and break it loose, you won't have the trouble I did. So, pull the cap off really slowly, and this piece right here might come out with your cap, depending. So put the cap aside, and if you got some junk in there, make sure you get it out. I haven't seen one yet that doesn't have junk in there. It's just dirt out of the turbo, and so yours might be like mine, come out needing a little force. So pull that out, and there is your fuel pin or fuel cone, depending on what you want to call it. They make performance fuel pins and fuel cones to replace this piece here with, and as you can see, there is a ramp, as I call it, right here and here on this side. This ramp rides on a little tiny pin down there. As the boost comes in, it pushes this down like that, and that little pin down inside that hole moves out because it's going up the ramp, and that's what adds your fuel. And as the boost is coming in, it gives it more room as this goes down, and you get more boost and more fuel and basically more power. So this from the factory is in there like this, where this side is your ramp. If you turn this, I believe, well, you can see where the old marks are right there. You turn that 90 degrees like that, and you're not going to believe what it does, because the ramp is a little bit steeper, so it'll fuel a little bit harder. But before we do that, there's a look down inside there. You can see the AFC spring and the what they call the star wheel down there. That star wheel adjusts how far down the fuel pin diaphragm starts. It's kind of hard to explain, but if you take your flat blade screwdriver and turn this wheel clockwise about 1.5 turns, that will give you a little bit more bottom end power. So that's what I'm going to do next, and as you can see, you just spin it and it makes the clicky noise. Well, try to keep track of how many turns you're on and go about 1.5. Alright, I ran the star wheel down about 1.5 turns. We're going to assemble the fuel pin and diaphragm, which is the rubber part, back into the injection pump. So the side with the little lip sticking out, which is right here, you'll see it, is going to go towards the front of the truck. So you want to try to get that lined up and just push it down in there. And if you push it down a couple times and you pull it back up, it should leave a mark in your old grease. And mine kind of did. It's right about there. So once again, the deeper ramp goes towards the front of the truck. Take your AFC cap and reassemble it back on the injection pump. And this here, if you're wondering what this is a little cap that caps off what they call the smoke screw. The smoke screw, as you can see, is a little bolt that pushes the fuel pin down. So that means you're going to have more fuel before you have any boost. So the reason they call it the smoke screw is because if you match it to the floor from a dead stop, you get a little bit of black smoke before the boost comes in, which some people think is cool. And you know, I mean, everybody likes a little black smoke. So I'm not going to mess with that, but if you want, you can pull this cap off, put a 13 millimeter socket on the nut under there, back the nut off, and there's a Torx head in the middle. Run the Torx head down until it's like flush with the nut. Try to put the cap back on if it's still in one piece. You might have to actually like rip this out, because sometimes I don't like to come out. So assemble all this back together just as you took it off. Alright, well that pretty much wraps everything up. Today I showed you how to adjust your fuel throttle rod, and I also showed you how to adjust your fuel pin or fuel cone diaphragm to the deeper side so you get more fuel and more power as your boost pressure comes in. And if you have a boost gauge, you should see a slight increase in boost, and if you have an exhaust gas temperature gauge, which I highly recommend you get if you plan on going further with the injection pump, more modifications, you might see maybe a 25 degree, 50 degree, if that, raise in exhaust gas temperatures.